In the heart of Hanoi stands an abandoned villa, a place where anyone walking past at night feels a pair of eyes watching from the third floor. This place is 300 Kim Ma Street. The story of this notorious house began during the Soviet era, when it was commissioned with grand intentions. It was meant to serve as an embassy office, a symbol of diplomatic strength and international partnership. The blueprints depicted a stately building, a beacon of modern architecture in the bustling capital. However, before the final bricks were laid and the paint had a chance to dry, the project was shrouded in an inexplicable darkness. Strange and unsettling incidents began to plague the construction site, turning the dream of a grand embassy into a nascent nightmare. Workers, seasoned professionals who had spent their lives on construction sites, started reporting unnerving occurrences that defied logical explanation. They spoke in hushed tones of phantom dragging sounds echoing from above the ceiling in rooms where no one was present. It sounded as if heavy furniture was being scraped across the floorboards in the dead of night, a sound that would send shivers down their spines. The building's electrical system, brand new and supposedly state-of-the-art, behaved erratically. Lights would flicker on and off without any discernible cause, plunging entire sections of the unfinished villa into sudden, oppressive darkness, only to blaze back to life moments later. These were not simple power surges. It was as if an unseen hand was playing with the switches. But the most terrifying phenomenon was the appearance of a mysterious figure. Multiple workers, on separate occasions, reported seeing a dark, human-like shape moving within the building's empty shell. It would be glimpsed for a fleeting moment, a shadow in a doorway, a silhouette against a window in areas that were confirmed to be unoccupied. Fear, thick and palpable, spread through the construction crew like a contagion. The project, once a symbol of progress, became a source of dread. Eventually, the unexplained events took their toll. The construction ground to a halt, the tools were laid down, and the workers abandoned the site, refusing to return. The house was left unfinished, a skeletal structure exposed to the elements. For decades, it has remained untouched, a lifeless shell, decaying slowly in the heart of the city, its history and its secrets sealed within its crumbling walls. The official abandonment of 300 Kim Ma did not quell the unsettling stories. It only allowed them to fester and grow, weaving themselves into the fabric of local lore. Residents living in the vicinity of the eerie villa have their own tales, accounts passed down through generations and whispered in the quiet hours of the night. A persistent claim, one that surfaces time and again, centers on the period between 2 and 3 a.m. It is during this witching hour, they say, that the true nature of the house reveals itself. Several locals swear they have seen a dark figure standing motionless on the third-floor balcony, a silent sentinel staring down at the deserted street below. They describe it not as a clear silhouette of a person but as something more amorphous and terrifying. It looks, they insist, like a shape formed out of darkness itself, a void in human form, a patch of night that is deeper and more absolute than the surrounding gloom. Its stillness is what makes it so unnerving. It doesn't move, it doesn't shift, it just watches. One witness, an elderly woman who has lived across the street for over 40 years, recounted a particularly chilling experience. Her voice trembled as she spoke of a night when she and her husband were awakened by strange sounds. "We always lock our doors and windows, triple-check everything before bed. But that night, we heard footsteps, clear as day, not outside, but from above us, as if someone was walking on our roof." Panicked, they cautiously looked out their upstairs window, their gaze drawn, as if by an invisible force, toward the abandoned villa. The street was empty, the night silent. When we looked up, there was no one on our roof. Of course, she continued, her eyes wide with the memory. No one was there, except for that thing, a dark figure, just standing on the third floor, staring right down at our house. It felt like it was looking directly at us, through us. We slammed the curtains shut and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. This testimony is not an isolated one. It echoes the experiences of many others who have had the misfortune of casting their glance toward the third floor of 300 Kim Ma in the dead of night. The sinister reputation of the villa at 300 Kim Ma became a magnet for the curious and the brave, or perhaps the foolish. Over the years, numerous groups of thrill-seekers and amateur paranormal investigators have dared to trespass onto the property, hoping to either debunk the myths or experience the terror firsthand. Their stories, shared online and in hushed conversations, have only added to the house's dark legend. A consistent and perplexing detail reported by nearly everyone who has ventured inside is the anomalous temperature on the third floor. They described an intense, biting cold that seemed to emanate from the very walls, a cold that was present even on the most sweltering summer nights. It was a stark contrast to the rest of the house, which felt merely old and musty. The third floor, however, felt unnaturally frigid, a cold that was described as seeping into your bones. It was a cold that felt active, almost hostile. One particular incident, which gained notoriety in online forums, involved a group of young men who decided to document their illicit exploration. Armed with a video camera, they sneaked into the derelict mansion one evening, their nervous laughter echoing through the decaying halls. They filmed their journey through the dust-choked rooms, narrating their adventure with a mix of bravado and apprehension. They explored the first 2 floors without any major incidents. But the atmosphere shifted dramatically when they ascended the staircase to the dreaded 3rd floor. They completed their tour, capturing footage of the desolate, empty rooms, and left, feeling a mixture of relief and disappointment that nothing overtly supernatural had occurred. However, their relief was short-lived. When they returned home and reviewed the footage, their blood ran cold. In one segment, as the camera panned across a grimy window, a faint but unmistakable face could be seen in the reflection, hovering just behind one of the men. It was a pale, distorted visage that had not been there in the room with them. It was a silent observer they had not seen at the time, a ghostly photobomb from beyond the grave, captured forever on their recording. The video clip circulated, and with it, the legend of 300 Kim Ma grew even more menacing. The timeline of paranormal sightings at 300 Kim Ma is marked by distinct phases, and one of the most specific and chilling periods occurred between 2005 and 2008. During these years, the spectral phenomena seemed to take on a more defined form. The vague, shadowy figure was replaced, or perhaps joined, by a new apparition, a woman in white. Numerous independent witnesses reported seeing her. The accounts were strikingly similar. She would appear at the 3rd floor window, a sorrowful figure clad in a flowing white garment. Her long dark hair would obscure her face, her head perpetually tilted down as if in mourning or despair. Her presence was fleeting and reactive. Witnesses consistently noted that she would remain visible for a few moments, a ghostly beacon in the dark, but the moment a vehicle's headlights swept across the building's facade, she would vanish instantly, dissolving back into the shadows from which she came. These repeated sightings became so frequent and consistent that they could no longer be dismissed as mere rumor. The reports eventually reached the local authorities, who, compelled by public concern and the sheer number of calls, decided to conduct an official inspection of the house. A team of police officers entered the decaying villa, their flashlights cutting through decades of dust and darkness. They performed a thorough sweep of the premises, from the debris-strewn ground floor to the infamous 3rd. Their official report was conclusive. The house was empty. There was no one inside. They found no signs of squatters, no evidence of recent activity, and certainly no woman in white. The building was secure and uninhabited. However, one detail discovered during the inspection chilled the seasoned officers to the bone. In one of the 3rd floor rooms, a heavy wooden chair, caked in a thick, undisturbed layer of dust that testified to years of neglect, had been moved. It was shifted several feet from its original position, leaving a clear drag mark in the dust. Something had moved it, yet the layer of dust on the chair itself remained perfectly intact, ruling out any recent human contact. A peculiar and persistent pattern emerges from all the tales and testimonies surrounding 300 Kim Ma. Strangely, every story, every sighting, every inexplicable event involves the 3rd floor, not the 1st, not the 2nd, only the 3rd. It is as if this specific level of the house is a focal point for the paranormal, a stage upon which the unseen drama unfolds. The ground floor, with its decaying remnants of a grand entrance, remains quiet. The 2nd floor, with its series of empty office-like rooms, is inert. But the 3rd floor seems to be alive with a dark energy, a nexus of the unexplained phenomena that has given the house its terrifying reputation. This specificity has led many to question the very architecture of the building, searching for a clue in its design. Upon closer examination of the original, unfinished blueprints, investigators and enthusiasts discovered a curious anomaly. One room on that 3rd floor was built in a very unusual way. It was an interior space with no ventilation, and most unnervingly, no windows. It was designed as a sealed chamber, isolated from the rest of the floor. This has fueled a host of theories. Some believe it was intended to be a secure holding room, perhaps for diplomatic detainees, a small windowless cell hidden within the embassy. Others speculate it was meant to be a secret archive, a vault for sensitive documents that needed to be protected from both espionage and the elements. Whatever its intended purpose, it was a room designed for containment and secrecy. The construction of the house was abandoned abruptly, and it is widely believed that this abandonment coincided with the first whispers of strange occurrences. The stories began right after work on that mysterious, sealed room was completed, leading some to wonder if, in building it, the workers had inadvertently created or disturbed something that should have been left alone. In 2016, modern technology inadvertently added a new, terrifying chapter to the legend of 300 Kim Ma. A traffic camera, installed on a pole at a nearby intersection, was positioned with a clear, albeit distant, view of the villa's facade. Its purpose was to monitor the flow of vehicles, but one night, it captured something utterly bizarre. During a routine review of the footage, an operator noticed an anomaly. For a brief period, a dark figure could be seen standing beside one of the 3rd floor windows of the abandoned house. It was stationary, a stark black shape against the grimy glass. The operator, intrigued and unsettled, used the camera's zoom function to get a closer look. What happened next was inexplicable. The moment the camera began to zoom in, the figure vanished. It didn't walk away or duck out of sight. It simply ceased to exist in the fraction of a second it took for the lens to adjust. It was gone in what was later calculated to be less than 0.1 seconds, a speed far too fast for any human to achieve. The footage was flagged and sent for analysis. Experts were brought in to examine the strange recording. One digital imaging analyst, after reviewing the clip frame by frame, offered a chilling conclusion. The behavior of this shadow is not consistent with normal light physics, he stated in his report. A typical shadow would shift or fade with a changing light source, or be cast by a physical object. This is different. He struggled to find the right words to describe the phenomenon he was witnessing. It doesn't look like a shadow cast by something, he finally said, his voice heavy with bafflement. It looks like a tear in space, a localized absence of light and data, shaped like a person. That was there one frame and gone the next. The camera, an impartial, mechanical observer, had not only confirmed the presence of the shadow, but had also captured its impossibly unnatural behavior, lending a terrifying layer of technological credibility to decades of ghostly folklore. For more than 30 years, the house at 300 Kim Ma remains abandoned. It stands as a monument to a failed project and a testament to fear, its windows like vacant eyes staring out over the ever-changing city. The building is untouched, uninhabited, and ultimately, unexplained. The official records offer no answers, and the passage of time has only deepened the mystery, shrouding the truth in layers of dust and speculation. Over the decades, countless theories have been proposed to explain the haunting. Some say the persistent shadow belongs to the spirit of a worker who tragically died during the chaotic and ill-fated construction, forever bound to the site of his demise. Others whisper that it is the ghost of a woman, trapped inside the walls for reasons unknown, her sorrow manifesting as the figure in white and the cold spots on the third floor. Then there are the skeptics, who argue that it is all just a product of collective imagination, a ghost story fueled by the building's derelict appearance and the human mind's tendency to see patterns in the dark. But the stories persist, passed down from one generation to the next, a chilling piece of Hanoi's urban folklore. The abandoned villa on Kim Ma Street has become more than just an empty building. It is a landmark of the unknown, a place where the veil between worlds feels perilously thin. But if you ever find yourself passing by Kim Ma Street in the lonely, quiet hour of 3 a.m., look up at the third floor, and if someone is staring back at you, turn away quickly.